social living, this social security, this social experiment isn't working. Just isn't working.
So, Roger, if I took your stance, right, and I'm running, and I believe the only person that could right now in today's environment, if he chose to, I mean, maybe Trump could end Social Security, but I mean, if I ran on that, how bad do you think I lose in an election? With all seriousness, how bad do you think I lose?
I I can
Oh,
answer that question if I
well,
can.
yeah, but let me answer it my way first, and then I'd love to get your thoughts. Um, you need to plant the seeds that this is a conversation that Americans have to have, and if you're afraid to plant the seeds, then you'll never let the idea grow. And I get it that there's people that will use fear tactics and try to weaponize this conversation against you. I totally get that. The point that needs to be made, though, is that we're doing it their way and it's about to go broke. 2035, the trust fund is broken, completely emptied, and you'll only be able to fund 71% of the liabilities. We need to be able to speak honestly about that and educate people. The average American that is in support of having Social Security is because they think they're going to get it. If you tell them that we can only fund 71% of the liabilities. Oh, and by the way, the Supreme Court has already ruled that this is not a promissory note. There is no guarantee of Social Security. Go look at what the Supreme Court has to say about this. I think what we have to do is we need to have that conversation that you're not guaranteed it. And the politicians have already spent that money. The trust fund will be broke in 2035. And the only ways that they're going to have to fix it is to raise Social Security tax, which is right now at 625. They could raise the limit on the income of what they tax. So essentially, both of those are raising taxes. Both of those are going to be unpopular. You could raise the age in which you collect. They continue to do that, but right now the standard age is 70. You can take it early at 67. Uh, you could wait longer and get even more money, but most people don't have that luxury. And then the other thing is you could reduce the benefit that people collect. That's not something that's exciting, but people need to understand, especially the people that beyond 2035. For somebody that's on Social Security now, and let's say they've got 5 years left to live, that's a problem that they've kicked down the road. And I think that's the thing we need to be honest with, is that the politicians continue to kick this thing down the road. And eventually, the people that are going to get saddled with it are the people that have been lied to and led to believe that this is a promise and that there's a guarantee, or that somehow they have recourse if they didn't get paid for it. The truth is, Social Security has always been a Ponzi scheme. And until somebody says that out loud, and explains it, whiteboards it, and lets people understand that this is not a political position. This is just transparency. Until we get that kind of real talk, we're all fucked. And we know that the lefties like this, they'd like to expand it. They don't have the money to pay for it, but they'd love to expand it. And you have not a Republican in sight that's got the balls to talk about it, save for maybe Thomas Massey. But he's only going to do that when he's talking to his constituents that like his brand. There's a lot of gutless people that run in Congress, and you got to start the conversation. Because I'll tell you what, eventually the conversation's going to come up, and it's too fucking late after the trust fund is emptied.
Can I get a word in edgewise now?
You could get it in edgewise. I hope you don't mind me having that right of response to Brad that was asking me the question. But go ahead, Anson, jump in.
You have every right to. I mean, it's your room. You're the moderator. You have every right. Whether it's effective or not, we can talk about it, but you have every right to do that, and I don't want to intrude. But the answer to the question, Brad, actually, the answer to the question in the room, can we save the leftists? No. And Brad, for you to run for office, knowing you as I at least partially know you and your views from interacting on Clubhouse over the last several years, unless you pick your local area very carefully, you don't stand a Chinaman's chance in hell of being elected to office. Neither do I. At one point, about 20 years ago, somebody asked me to run for the city council in my local town that I still live in. And I said, not only no, but hell no, because I wouldn't sit still for all the bullshit that I would hear being presented before the council. But the reason we cannot, I, I just dropped in and I was kind of looking around before the critical thinking room forum this today. By the way, I'm getting more and more disgusted with that room, but that's a whole different topic. Uh, but I just dropped into a room. There were only four people. And my good friend Steve, and those of you that Steve Wee, may know him from Critical Thinking Forum, I really like his views, and he and I are sort of similar. But in the room, this small room, two women and Steve and myself, and the question was, what must you do in order to preserve freedom? And what I said was an old Rickover quote, is that I said, in order for freedom to prevail, every individual within a nation of freedom must be able to accept responsibility first for themselves, second for their family, and third for their country. And if you don't accept that personal responsibility and you become a victim, then you have not exercised the essential element to preserve freedom. Because if you're a victim and you call on government to solve the problems for you, then as every empire that's ever risen and declined, at some point, every one of those governments goes bankrupt, deeply into debt, and lose their ephemeral power because they can't pay for all the demands of all the citizens to make them happy. So without personal responsibility, you're never going to defeat leftists, they're the ones that look to government to supplant personal responsibility. And that's the downfall of empires.
Well, what business does Mamdani have in opening up low-income housing? I mean, this is just wealth redistribution through taxation. In Chicago, they spent 50 million on a low-income housing project with perpetual tenants and perpetual tax payments to the developers or the lessors. So we're living in an unnatural economy. 40% of our overall economy is through borrowing and spending. We are on a totally unsustainable path, and the fact that how we have gotten here, if we accept the personal responsibility of it, we have no choice but to speak out about the radical borrowing and spending and how it doesn't seem like it's ever going to stop. It's just linear.
Well, you have that going on right now, where you have Newsom permitting low-income housing, but hasn't passed any permits for any of the people in the wildfires. So those people are sitting there waiting. It did come out. Someone tried to challenge me yesterday and had to acquiesce to their fact-check snoops. But then it was released today that, yes, Gavin Newsom is partaking through an NGO, through a charity event, or whatever it is that his wife has set up. What is it? Fire charity, some stupid shit. That he is taking that money and not even distributing down to the people in need. There's a prominent individual who's like going into the sources and doing all the fact checking and he's stating nobody's received a penny that he is aware of that he can find. So if that redistribution that you're speaking of, Edmund, is it's going on right now, and it really exemplified based on this one that I can't figure out why the left won't fucking at least acknowledge it and then do something to at least stop their own side. Instead, they just want to go Newsom for president.
Acknowledge what exactly? Sorry, I hopped in late.
Oh, that Newsom is blocking permits of people to rebuild their homes, and that he was basically taking from charity money, or his wife was. I'm sorry, it wasn't him directly, but his wife was. It has been in terms of the California wildfires.
I mean, state governors do some pretty stupid shit. I mean, Floridians all started chanting DeSantis for president, even though we got hit with a fucking hurricane and we had no money because he spent all of it sending quote unquote illegal immigrants over to sanctuary cities to prove a political point when we were literally in the midst of an impending hurricane, right? And we got fucking shit on by it, especially the coast. They got absolutely fucking mogged by that shit. But I would say, like, yeah, I mean, state governors 24/7, as stupid as the people may be in the state sometimes to keep putting them in, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's on both sides of the aisle that we've always seen that, yeah, even if they do some stupid shit, being there once kind of almost guarantees you a second going unless you really, really fuck up.
Brad, wanted to also include for the Pacific Palisades, that area, the residents have complained that they are not able to get the permits to start building. Just a couple, I think there was like maybe less than 10 permits. So what has happened since that time? The California State Senate has passed that they can purchase that land for low income housing. So it makes you wonder, like, is that the reason why you're stalling? Because then you're gonna force these people into stall them out as long as possible, make them so uncomfortable that you are forced their hand to sell their land. It's problematic. And one last thing, Brad, when you're talking about Newsom's wife charity, is called Cal Volunteers. And the problem with this, and I found out, unfortunately, the terrible way, I had to file a cease and desist to a charity that was utilizing my late husband's name, picture, likeness to raise funds, then not distribute or be accountable for said funds to be, in fact, sharing their profit and loss. So when I did that, I found out that every state within the state AG office has a department that is exclusively that's supposed to work through all the investigations for charities. But it takes someone to sit there and say, "This is what I have. This is what you need to do. This is my concern. This is the communication that goes through it." But if it's a charity that has political ties, then do we as a public have confidence that it's going to actually be investigated in the full capacity? And a lot of people don't know that charities, it takes a long time to get that status. It takes over a year, many times over. So that's the reason why people are allowed to take that money in, process it, and they're like, oh, okay, we got to close it down. But where did that money go?
Goes into administrative expenses, salaries, very little development. It's an epidemic of nonprofit charlatans and fraud. After COVID-19, Mark Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan opened up a $100 million anti-inflammation research facility here in Chicago. And guess who helped spread all the lies of COVID-19 vaccines? Mark Zuckerberg. So maybe that's their payback to society, is to open up nonprofits to figure out how we can save ourselves from the injections and the inflammation and the clot shot. That's how billionaires seem to use tax loopholes to defer income tax and put it into nonprofits that they control and can enjoy and utilize. But we put away Al Capone because of tax evasion. Are the liberals calling for any billionaires to be imprisoned for tax evasion on this app? Have you ever heard one liberal on this app say we should put Zuckerberg or Bill Gates in jail for tax evasion? Nope, you've never heard it. And if you claim that they're involved in a COVID-19 vaccine conspiracy theory, They call you crazy.
Well, that does sound kind of crazy.
Really? You think it's crazy to inject the entire population with one patented formula? No dynamic medicine. Everybody gets the same shot, otherwise the pandemic doesn't end? That sounds crazy to you?
No, it doesn't sound that crazy.
What's crazy is leftist liberals who want to tax you to death through your property tax, through your income tax. Danelle, I mean, what do you think we should do? How should we solve the financial crisis that's brewing in America today?
I think we're just screwed regardless. I think we've reached a point of countries where the institutions become locked up. Um, I think people don't really believe it anymore. I think we're just screwed. I don't think there is a magic wand to fix it. Sorry.
Well, apparently you don't believe in education because, if you know you're getting fucked over and you just keep voting for the same cocksuckering asshole keeps fucking you over year after year, maybe it's an awareness problem. And through education, you can enhance your awareness.
Yeah, but that's gonna take. There's this great book on scientific revolution, um, about how science evolves over time and new ideas. They've extrapolated this idea to kind of everything, politics, sociology. It's by kids, and you just have to wait for a lot of people to die for that to happen. You have to have new ideas get popular, and it's just it would take a while. Like you're not just gonna like what is this gonna be like the Wizard of Oz? We get a fucking piece of paper and it changes your mind about everything. Like it's unfixable, man. You're cooked. Get over it.
Hello, KK. Do you want to say hello? Hey, Dan. I want to. Hello. I, I don't know how to pronounce this. Danny or Dan. Danelle. How do you?
You know.
Danelle. Uh, so how do you think we can save the left? Do you think we can save the right? Do you think we can save America?
He just said it's cooked. It's over. It's fucked. Apparently, this guy doesn't know how to fix anything. He doesn't clean anything. His house probably looks like shit. Apparently, he just lets things just fall apart and not actually replace or repair anything. That's Danelle's perspective on America. It's un-American. It's pathetic. It's weak, and it's not based on wisdom. Danelle, I'm sorry, but you've lost. You've gotten an F minus if this was a report card.
So Danelle, would you like to answer the question? America
I
has a
mean,
plan.
nothing is impossible. But I'm just saying, like, in this culture, the culture that we live in right now, where politics has become sort of this virtue signal culture war. How are you going to get the majority to implement these ideas? Like, you're not going to be able to do that. That's why it's cooked. Unless you can find some way to transcend that, and nobody's been able to. I mean, look at you know, we've had two presidents back to back that have barely won a majority in Congress after winning. How are you going to get the legislation that you need to fix the problems? It's too cooked. The culture war is too powerful. This isn't. I just don't see how you fix it.
So that means, if I understand you correctly, that you personally do not believe in personal responsibility. You talk about culture wars. The culture wars right now are collapsing on those who think it's important, or the social ills. We now know that men cannot get pregnant. We know that people should be responsible. We got rid of the pronouns. We get rid of a lot of this woke stuff. When do you think that the individual American decides on their own to get right and start to say, I cannot rely on government. I got to rely on personal responsibility? When does that happen?
I don't know, man. You have to tell me. I mean, it depends on what. I mean, Roger makes the interesting point where he says we would have to discuss what the role of government is in the first place and what the purpose of it to begin with is, right? I
It's
mean, that would
called
have to.
limited. It's called limited.
It's called limited.
Yeah, it's called self government. See, politicking is different than governance. Right now, we have a lot of politicians in America, very few people telling their constituents, the people they're supposed to represent, that they're responsible for their own life. No one's paying my mortgage. No one's taking care of my wife. That's my responsibility. No one takes care of my children. That's my responsibility. There's nobody in California where I live coming to rescue Edward. Edward can't overextend himself. I can't be like our bureaucracy in our federal government. And the supermajority here in California, they're not thinking about the people. They're thinking about PMS. They're on a big period, I call it. My wife calls it a big period. They're like power, money, and sex. That's California politicians.
Well, I think you can leave the sex part out. The borrowing and the spending, again, is the problem. Let me repeat that for people who don't seem to understand the financial crisis. It's called borrowing and spending and giving it away to Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, the NDAA. That's $5 trillion a year, and we're borrowing and in 2 billion a day, or 2 to 3 trillion on top of what we collect in tax revenue. So again, for people that don't understand the crisis, it's called borrowing and spending. It has to stop.
But what does Social Security and Medicare have to do with the debt?
It's called a program that doesn't work. It's not sustainable.
No,
Okay,
but
that
he's making the assumption that this program isn't working because it's causing borrowing and spending, and I'm asking, how does Medicare and Social Security contribute to the debt?
It's an expenditure, stupid. And when there's $100 billion in fraud in Medicare, Medicaid every year, and they don't even cut a budget for the fraud or wipe the fraud the fuck out, even in IRS income tax returns, that's like a $60 billion a year identity theft scam fraud. We have so much fraud in the system that if we don't shut it down, reanalyze it, reconfigure it, we just keep kicking the can down the road, borrowing from the Federal Reserve and international lenders. We are driving ourselves into a debt death spiral.
So
And if the
how much
people of this
money
country
are
keep
we?
voting for Congress people that keep borrowing from the Federal Reserve and spending like drunken sailors, you can kiss your American dream the fuck goodbye, and it's all over.
So how much money does the U.S. annually per year borrow to fund Social Security and Medicare?
It's an aggregate. We are spending
So you
$5
don't know,
trillion
but you're
dollars.
making the
Let
claim
me
Oh,
put it in
that
Chat GPT
because.
for
oh,
you, Danelle.
hold on, hold on. I'll give you the most important piece of this is that the top two expenditures in the line item are the line items go like this: Social Security, Medicare, and then interest on the debt. And the interest on the debt is because of the Social Security and the Medicare spending. So the top three line items are directly related to Social Security and Medicare. We have 2/3 of the budget that are locked up in mandatory spending for these programs that, let's be honest, they're not helping. And furthermore, they're not really within the scope of what the government's supposed to be doing, if we're being fucking honest. If you want to help people, that should be a more local thing. The federal government saying that they're here to help is like one of the scariest fucking statements that people make. The idea that these things are helping in any way, they're gobbling up 2/3 of the fucking goddamn debt. Which, by the way, this is outside of the budget. We collect $5 trillion in 2024. We spend $7 trillion. 2/3 of that was spent on the interest, or I'm sorry, on the Medicare and the Social Security, and then the next biggest line item is the interest on the debt. At some point, we have to address it because what's going to happen is eventually the interest on the debt is going to become the biggest line item, and then the only way that you're going to be able to address it is to address the big line items outside of the interest on the debt, which is going to be Social Security and Medicare. The only other alternative is that we could just default on the debt and we could roll that out and see how that plays out. At this point, I'm up for anything that doesn't continue to pretend that somehow this is a good strategy. I want a shock to the system. I would say the first practical thing would be to pass a balanced budget amendment so you cannot spend money that we don't have budgeted. That way, if you collect $5 trillion in tax dollars, then you spend $5 trillion, and that's the maximum. And if we were wise, we would spend less than that. That way, we could begin spending down the debt. Which, by the way, at $37 trillion, if you were to run a $1 trillion surplus every year, you still wouldn't pay it off in 37 years because of this little thing called interest. So it would take us about 70 years if we did no additional deficit spending to be able to pay off the debt that we have now. And that's assuming that we could find a way to save $1 trillion every year. So here's the point. The problem's fucking out of control. At this point, I'm of the opinion that we make a radical plan to fix it, right? Or we make a radical plan to break it. Because once we break it, then we'll be forced to fix it.
So, Roger, are you saying I can't write a check to cover it?
I would say nobody can write a check to cover it. Although they will take your share to try to pay for the interest on it. It's just a fucking game. It's very fucking irresponsible. And the problem is it doesn't help any of us. It doesn't help any of us. All we've done is we said we're going to kick this fucking problem down the road because we don't want to deal with it in our time. We want our kids and our grandkids to be burdened with this fucking problem. And I think that's crazy. What problem in your personal life, in your family, do you want to say, I don't want to deal with this today? I want my kids and grandkids to deal with this problem. That's what the government's doing. I don't understand why we let them get away with it.
It's a lack of awareness, a lack of education. It's corruption. I mean, in Illinois, they just put the Speaker of the House in jail for 3.5 years because he's doing price fixing with ComEd, the utility. They put executives from the utility in prison. They've put political fixers in prison. But the utility bills just keep going up. We have to have real forensic accounting, real courageous leadership, and people who aren't going to deflect and always go back to climate change or how there's white supremacy and racism that's inherent in the system. The people that do that, you have to start paying attention to, and you have to call them out every time they do it because they are corrupt and a part of the borrowing and spending problem.
Right. And it's not just race and it's not just gender. They use those as tactics to get people to stop talking at all. They feel like if they put a label on you that somehow that's going to shut you up and that it stalls all your progress. The other thing that we should absolutely think about is the lack of conversation that we have in this country about what's happened in Europe when they've opened their borders to Islam. We should talk about the fact that Islam is a pedophile death cult. We should talk about the fact that once they get the numbers, they are going to institute Sharia law. And when they do that, they are going to take over, and unless you're in support of pedophilia, their prophet, the prophet Muhammad married a 6-year-old girl and fucked her when she was 9 years old. And now if that's what you want for your country, then go ahead and allow people to get away with shutting down that conversation. You know how they shut it down? They won't even let you talk about this subject. If you bring up, if I even said, "Hey, let's talk about Islam," they'll say, "Uh-oh, here comes the Islamophobia." No, I'm not Islamophobic. I'm actually just pointing out that I'm anti-pedophilia, and we should play that game back on them. Why are you people supporting pedophilia? Or why are you afraid to confront pedophiles? And if you're not willing to deal with Islam honestly, then you are aiding and abetting pedophilia. That's the conversation we also need to have. But
Well,
you guys aren't ready for it.
I'm looking in the age of consent laws in the Middle East, and I don't see the correlation for this pedophile cult that Roger's
I
talking about.
Hey,
I
Because
I know I
Iraq
know
has
I know
atheism,
you don't. I know
Egypt
you
does
don't. Hold on.
it,
I know you don't.
Turkey does it.
Oh,
So
hold on.
where these are
Hold on.
majority Muslim
Yeah.
countries, they
Oh,
have
hold.
Sharia
Yeah.
law,
Oh,
Roger.
hold on. Let me explain something to you.
Yeah, you're
Because
wrong. That's the
oh,
explanation.
okay, you can interrupt me all you want. Again, this is the tactic. Shut people down. I want you to go ahead and look at the age of consent law in Iran. I want you to go look at the age of consent law in Yemen. I want you to go look at the age of consent law in Afghanistan. And with the IRGC in Iran, Without going to court, you can marry a 13-year-old girl. If you do go into a courthouse with the father's permission, you can marry a girl that's 8 years, 9 months. Now go look that up. Go put that prompt in your chat GPT. I know that you haven't thought about these issues until I just brought them up. And your quick little search on chat GPT didn't tell you these facts. But if you're okay with pedophilia, go ahead and tell me that I'm the bad guy.
So Iran is the entire Middle East. And how many Iranian immigrants are going into Europe?
I think we all see what the problem is here.
I think we do too, and I think you're
I do.
making like an expenditure that's very stupid. And it's funny because aren't libertarians normally the fucking open borders kings? Like, isn't that all they want is like free flow of everyone to everywhere?
It's very interesting, guy. Go ahead, Roger. This
I,
guy.
I, I just want to say thank you, Danelle, for proving my point here. When you bring up these issues, they will deflect. And I love how people say that I thought libertarians think this, I thought libertarians think that. First of all, like fuck the Libertarian Party
Well, to be
and
fair, I don't think they even think.
yeah, well, to be frank, I don't think you do either. I think what you did is you put one single prompt into Chat GPT because you got offended because I did real talk about Muslims, and
No, I
you
just knew you were wrong about this, so I was like,
well,
oh, I have to
actually,
look it up real
well,
quick.
Daniel, I
well,
actually agree
well,
with most of what you're saying, but please stop interrupting. It's ear cancer. Thanks.
it, Danelle, well, let me ask you this: Does is the age of consent law in Iran? Does the IRGC allow you, with the parents' permission, to marry an 8-year-old girl that's 8 years, 9 months? Is it yes or no that that's a fact?
Well, I mean, that's an argument against theocracy in general. Theocracy is in general bad. And I would say, yeah, Iran, Islamic Republic of wherever the fuck, not good.
And Roger or Mojo, Mojo Rising. How about Mojo Roger Rising? There you go. I know you like this Islamist, the 9-year-old having sex. I'll give you zero
I don't
pushback.
like it actually.
No, I'm saying you didn't let me finish. You like that argument to counterpoint the left having the audacity of accusing a president of the free world of potentially, allegedly, being involved in such horrific acts. So I'll be the first to say it, man. It's I don't care what culture, what religion people can hide behind or whatever. It's absolutely grotesque. That's one of the plethora of reasons I don't identify as religious for stuff like that. And all kinds of other things beneath that, but to sort of for any religions group to try to justify that because it is you're a young bride, arranged marriage, all this, it's horrible. That said, though, does it concern you though? I just did a random cursory search. Some articles are coming up. For example, why are some Republican lawmakers hell bent on preserving child marriage? GOP lawmakers across the U.S. have opposed raising the marriage age, with some arguing child marriage. This is their own words. Child marriage bans, essentially, I guess, meaning anyone under 18 or 17, depending on the state. Uh, Child marriage bans would encourage abortion. Do you take issue with that?
Well, the abortion issue is something that the states can wrestle with.
Well,
I think.
whatever the reason is, do you find it not disconcerting that the GOP lawmakers are trying to lower the age for marriage?
Yeah, I'll make my case on this. I think the age of consent should be 25, and I mean this not jokingly. The human brain is not fully developed until the age of 25, and
That's a fact.
so that's where I would set age of consent. I mean, unless what you want to do is be able to manipulate the minds of a less developed brain. So that's my position. So yeah, I oppose all the people that are doing that. But as far as you bringing up the president, the implications that a lot of these powerful people, whether they're in politics, whether they're in business, the elite. that we're going off to this pedophile island. I think that's very disturbing, and I don't think any administration has the gumption to literally go after these people. What I can say with certainty, is that if there was something that could have gotten President Trump thrown in jail, if there was a smoking gun within those files during the election, the people that were willing to try to get Trump thrown off the ballot, tried to throw him in jail, tried to assassinate him, they absolutely would have used weapons that were in these files against him if there was something that they could have proved.
So, Roger, I have a question, and I appreciate your stance of just saying consent age 25. But this is my question: when do we, as a country, think that our morality or the what's the word I want to use? Well, let me say it this way, because my parents, my dad was 21, my mom was 16. They've been married 58 years. I'm the 15th of 17 children, but they were married. And I do agree with you that pedophilia, these MAP now, what they call minor attractive persons, they're changing the words and stuff. I'm just trying to wrap my head around the countries that are theocracy versus where we as Americans have our own set of morality or what we consider consent. Where do we uh, Sharia law? Just this stuff is it's disturbing, guys. I can't even wrap my head around it. You said so much. I'm just trying to figure it out, Roger. But it's pretty sad. That's all I can tell you. That's my point. It's just pretty sad that men would even think that they want to engage with a 9-year-old, 11-year-old, whatever. It's just pretty scary.
Yeah, no, it's very disturbing. And then the common thing that comes up when I bring up this topic about how we should crack down on these things, and do it fearlessly. We shouldn't be afraid of being called Islamophobic by pointing out that the Prophet Muhammad was a pedophile. We should not be afraid to call it out. Um, what typically gets thrown out there is this idea that, oh well, back in the day, even here in America, Delaware had a age of consent law of 7 years old. The point of why that's not relevant is that if you were to go conduct man on the street interviews in the state of Delaware and ask the people in Delaware, what do you think of age of consent being 7, they would all say that's absurd, that's abhorrent. If you ask that same question of Muslims in 2025, and we've done that on these stages, they will say she was old enough. Their words, not mine.
What did you say this? Okay, and that's right, horrific. Agreed. But what about, again, going back to our fearless leader um, in the White House, who is actually trying to ban? I'll be happy to find the article. It's not that hard to find. He's trying to ban, I believe, a federal law. So I think, as most of us know, right, with therapy, there is therapy and priests, two toughest people to get up on in court on a witness stand to talk about their people that come to them in confidentiality. My understanding in both those scenarios, however, is that what reigns supreme over the confidentiality agreement is if they think that their person or persons is at risk of harming themselves, or more apropos, harming someone else, then that completely absolves that confidentiality agreement. President Donald Trump is attempting to ban a federal law that allows priests, because you're talking about the Islam. Well, as equally as bad is modern day Catholics. Many priests, I can't think of one who's ever been held accountable and sitting behind bars for child molestation of altar boys and such. And Trump is trying to now ban the ability, the federal law that allows for priests to speak to law enforcement if a child has come to them in confidentiality saying that they have been abused either by another priest or by any adult on this planet, why would the president try to do that?
Yeah.
Put it in the chat, Bruce. I
Well,
don't believe that for a second.
yeah.
You don't believe? I don't blame you, American.
Hold
I'll
on.
put in multiple links.
Yeah,
Stand by.
yeah,
Go ahead, Moshe.
yeah. Put the link in the chat so people could follow along. But I'll speak to this idea that, like, I'm the wrong person to ask to defend Donald Trump. I didn't vote for him in any of the three elections that he ran. I don't have a lot of pleasant things to say about him. I do like the fact that he ordered those strikes on those terror sympathizers, the ones that sponsor terror around the world. I thought hitting the nuclear sites was a good idea. The only thing that I question about that is the wisdom of only doing it once. I think that we should set our clock and probably do that every 3 days just to make sure that that program never gets off the ground. I'm not going to sit here and defend Trump on any of this stuff. Like my condemnation for this type of behavior and policies that would condone this stuff. This could apply to anybody. I'm not in a camp. I'm not part of a God club that says that I want to protect this group or that group. I think that God exists, and I think that that's evident. I think anybody that's paying attention can recognize that. What I don't think is that we necessarily need to join a God club and make truth claims about, the characteristics of God. If you want to do that, totally, that's on you. I respect people like Edward. I consider Edward a friend. I don't I don't think that he's wrong for owning the beliefs that he has. I personally find it more useful, though, to stand outside of that God club and to say, okay, if we're going to have an organized society, what are the rules going to be? And I like John Stuart Mill's take on we should be free to do what we want to do, provided that we don't harm anyone. I would set age of consent laws at 25. I think the fact that people want to have sex with children is fucking abhorrent. And whether or not they're a Catholic or a fucking Muslim or any other religion or an atheist, by the way, we shouldn't let atheists off the hook. Atheists have killed more people than anybody. If we look at Stalin, if we look at Pol Pot, if we look at Mao, we can understand that the godless people, surprise, surprise, are the most deadly on the planet. So I have smoke for all of them, Moose. So yes, if Donald Trump is holding the door open for pedophiles.
Uh oh. We'll see if he's back.
Well,
But Moose,
well, Moose, let me go ahead, American.
I
No,
was gonna
no,
say
you're
Moose.
saying they're
Don't
fake
you?
news. I mean, New York Times, MSNBC, Courthouse News.
Yeah,
These aren't
all
like
all
it's not
horrifically
National
fake
Enquirer,
news.
man.
Rolling Stones puts out fake news all day. MSNBC puts out fake news all day. It's all anti-Trump bullshit, and you're just
Okay,
backing it. All you're doing
cool.
is spewing propaganda
Okay,
and lies. It's all stupid.
cool. Right
Did
on,
Well,
man.
you?
well,
Can
Moose,
Absolutely
I?
Right
Can
on,
I
man.
ridiculous.
Right
interject
go
on,
on
ahead.
man.
this?
Right on, man.
Go
Wait.
ahead,
Can I
Roger.
interject on this because, like, if you read even the first link, and then I just went through and looked up a couple of things, because I was actually shocked at this for a moment, and this actually stems from a Washington State law that they imposed on
That is
priests.
correct. I stand
Uh,
corrected on the. It wasn't a federal. It was Washington State. That
yeah,
is 100% true. Correct.
Yes, and so this repeal, a federal judge, oddly enough, in that district, which is more left leaning, agreed with the plaintiffs that brought forth this case, which happens to be like whatever Sky Daddy religion it was. Um, they agreed with it that it is a bridge into determining like how people would practice their beliefs. Like for instance, a priest can hear a confession from a murderer. That doesn't mean they have to report said murder. That's held within the confines of that. So putting this kind of stamp on a religious order for a priest to during confession hear this and then say I have to report this, or use their own brain work or their own determination to determine what is child abuse and what isn't, which child neglect, without any formal training, this would lead to, I would say, more problematic, and it would probably bring up more further constraints on priests in terms of following their faith. I don't. I'm not sure I oppose 100% of your viewpoint, Moose, but I actually can sit down and say, all right, I see where they're coming from with this. I can see where they were looking at into towards the future, and when states start to impose laws regulating people's religious beliefs and doctrines.
So Moose, I didn't want to make sure before you go on that this legislation does not come from a president. Okay, the president doesn't make law. It actually starts in
I understand
Congress.
that, Edward. I didn't
I,
say he made the law. I said he was trying to. He was he was backing the church to block this law. No, you're of course the president does not. That's Congress, correct?
yeah, but if you put it out as if though the law that already is on the books, like what Brad was talking about, there is a protection for those who have either their therapist or even their doctor or their priest, whatever. There is protected law already. So I don't think that, based on what you said, I just want to make sure I'm understanding that the president of the United States does not normally sit down and look at all these things. He has a cabinet of people that's bringing him things. I don't think he's read up on this one based on what you said. I think a lot of times we get caught up in things and we make it as if though the individual, and I want to make sure everybody knows this, the president of the United States is not our leader. He's a leader of the free world. Each individual person is their own leader, hopefully. I think that we got to get back to personal responsibility. That's where I see it.
I gotcha. I mean, it's just any attempt, and like I said, I acknowledge this was not federal, although I guess I thought so because a federal judge was involved. But yeah, it was a
Bruce, are
Washington.
you asking yourself why would Trump want to do this?
Exactly. Like and I don't have an answer. Why would the
Well,
president
it's
even get
called
involved?
anti-Trump
Why would the president get
propaganda.
involved though,
Duh.
American? Why would the president put his name on this at all?
Look at the news source and the journalist. Are you this daft and that stupid to know that all
Okay. All right.
communication
Gotcha.
is spam?
So
It's
American, cool.
just
If you
fake
don't,
news, stupid. It's clickbait.
gotcha.
Just like
Gotcha.
all Clubhouse room titles are clickbait generally.
Okay, cool. So then what about all these stories around the world? And forget Trump. That has nothing to do with Trump, but actually, are all the stories around the world, like, do you think
All the
priests have,
stories around the world.
stand by. Do you think it's all fake news that priests have molested kids for
Welcome to the
decades and
publishing
decades?
industry. If you think sending Grant Cardone $99.95 to go to Grant Cardone University is going to make you money and not cost you money, you're part of the sucker group. And guess what, Moose? This is
Okay,
your great awakening and enlightening. MSNBC is fake news. CNN is fake news. Your Rolling
I
Stone
know they're
spits
all
out fake news.
fake.
It's
It's
called the
only you.
publishing
You're the only
industry,
one who has the
stupid.
truth. Okay, I'm done
It's
with you.
called
Cool.
the
Have a great day.
publishing industry, stupid. Wake up before you get suckered into more
No need
scams
to
and
insult
spams,
me. I didn't
and then
insult you.
come
Do not
here and
insult me.
spread
Do not
more
insult
fake
me. Thank you.
news
Hold
and
on,
more
guys. Hold on. Hold
propaganda.
on. Hold on. Hold on.
Shut up,
Hold on.
American.
Hold on. Hold on. American, listen. Moose has ideas that I disagree with, just like uh, I have ideas that he disagrees with. But the one thing I can vouch for Moose is that he doesn't argue in bad faith. He comes to these rooms to just, sometimes to just challenge the conviction that some of us have, and to speak what's on his mind. I think we need to create that place. I think there's a way to rebuttal the things that you disagree with without being inflammatory. There are definitely people on this app that we should shit down the neck of. I don't think Moose is one of them.
Well, that's fine, but I'm just saying the links that he put in the chat, to me, they're fake news. Now, if you want to deflect about pedophiles and Trump and the Catholic Church from the fact that we are borrowing and spending ourselves into a debt spiral oblivion, let's go back to that important topic instead of the bullshit fake news that you can't seem to let go and put in the chat. So thank you
All
very
it's
little,
fake
Dr.
news
Moose.
and it's in Google, you know. You can call everything fake, but there is a backup to that story.
Sorry, Dr.
Is
David,
Google
but
fake
can we
too?
save
Too?
the leftists? Let's get back to the room title then, David, because I know you're a confirmed leftist. Can we save you?
Now you know all about me.
Wait a minute, hold on. Like, if you're not going to take the concerns of somebody like Moose, and then you're going to ask for controls over economic principles or the foundation of the country, if you can't actually acknowledge that this is a concern that may be on his radar, and he may want answers, and he may want clarity, And like he just conceded that he thought it was a federal, and it turns out it was actually a state law, and he agreed to that. And you don't take your time to actually talk with him and actually have that conversation to go to the nuances and say whether you agree or disagree with this, you'll never win on an economic front. It cannot only be on economics. We've tried that for years in conservatives. Guess what? Conservatives lost. Like I'm going to tell you, I've lost. I'm like probably the last of a dying breed. I'm done. It is a new Republican. It is a new There's no more liberals left. There's no more libertarians. We're all dead. We're done. And you're not going to win the economic front by just screaming economic. You won't win. Just is your main source. You have to address everything else.
And Brad, I think that what you just said, that's why we're collapsing. I think Roger said it, 2030, guys, because we can't support all the programs. We can't support, and I'm going to use these terms so you guys understand, Black Lives Matter. Okay, and I'm using that as an illustration so you guys can understand uh, SNAP, WIC, all these things that's taking place in the United States, Social Security, the Great New Deal. We've gotten so far away from personal responsibility in America that now we think there's some institution or some group of people that's going to save the individual. It doesn't work. And it's very unfortunate because now we're in a country where people actually think that someone's actually coming to their rescue. And it's pretty sad.
I think America does need a political savior. They need someone to actually help them out and with their economic needs. And I do think that is the MAGA populist movement. I think that I disagree with you, Ed, a little bit that that we had to do away with some of that stuff. Some of that stuff I agree with. Some of that stuff I disagree with. I think protecting Social Security, protecting Medicare, Medicaid, all these things. These are political wins because people want big government. People want government intervention if it benefits their personal lives. And I think that's actually a bipartisan view. I think that's a wing message. I think both political parties should double down on that. I say moving away from that because that's when Republicans become losers when they actually focus on fiscal conservatism, focus more on the debt than helping individual people's lives, the working class, these people who are struggling paycheck to paycheck. You need the government to intervene to help these people out. Sure,
Oh,
there's personal
wait,
responsibility there,
hold
but
on.
there's a balance.
No, hold
Let
on.
me, yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
no, hold on. What? Why do you need the government to do this? See, you made this statement that you need the government to do this. uh, what you've done is you've just accepted leftist rhetoric and you've framed it. You've got your own heroes that you want to see elected, but you've accepted their framing that the government must do that. And my question for you, Astro, is why have you accepted the leftist framing of what the government's role is?
I wouldn't say this is a leftist framing. I would say, it's basically interventionism versus non-interventionism. It's not exclusively left or right. You had Democrats, like in the Bill Clinton era, who actually were less for government intervention in the economy and certain issues. Okay, and you have right wingers like Josh Hawley and J.D. Vance who are for government intervention in the economy and certain issues. Okay, and they're not leftists. They're right wingers.
No, no,
They
no, 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 no. They LARP as right wingers, but they're not. The new Republican Party is not capitalist. The new Republican Party, they do want to intervene in in the economy, which by definition makes them non-capitalist. And the fact is that you guys have accepted this. You guys have accepted this horse shit. You guys have accepted this idea that Donald Trump, because you like him better than you like the other team, that his bad ideas are okay, that tariffs, putting a tax on fucking consumers is okay. You accept all of this shit that are bad ideas that I would expect to come from lefties, but because you have like a foul-mouthed fucking guy like Trump, you think that that's more edgy and it's more cool. I just want to understand, where the fuck did your principles go?
Well, I would say this, like I think you're right. The Republican Party is moving away from free market capitalism. I welcome it. I think that's a great thing. It doesn't mean they're socialists or leftists. I won't say that, but I do think the shift to economic populism, that's what I would call it, is good for the American people. But I would disagree with Trump on certain things. I'm not going to say I agree with him on every single little thing, but like I do think from the 2008 recession, from Occupy Wall Street, from all these elites who keep promising all these different things, and they actually never deliver for the American people at all. You vote them in, they
Astro,
get
you
into power,
agree
and they do
that
nothing.
borrowing and spending is the solution. You just admitted it. You think moving away from capitalism and moving to socialism, communism, borrowing and spending and wealth redistribution is the way that the Republicans should go? That's the way you think, Astro? Mr.
Well,
MAGA?
Well, I would say this. I mean, I'm not a socialist. I'm for economic intervention. Just because you're for economic intervention doesn't mean you're a socialist. There's alternatives to capitalism and alternatives to
Economic
socialism.
Wait,
intervention is
well,
another term for
Hold on,
borrowing and
hold on,
spending.
hold on.
oh my god, this is
Astro,
crazy.
Astro, I have a question for you. When you said there's an alternatives or something, I'm 100% against big government in any form, including Donald Trump. Okay, all of them. I believe the responsibility should be back to the local level, to the state, and to the individual. That's why our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, our Declaration, these are our founding documents. We hold these truths to be self evident. We are way too big on interventionism. And look around, it's not working. We got way too many Americans right now who can't even think for themselves. Because you know why? They're looking to government. When do the individual in America, Astro, decide that this is their America, not someone who's in some central area making decisions on behalf of Edward? I just help me with that.
Well, I would say this. For one, like you can still have localism and have big government. If you actually had decreased federal government power, but empower the states to do like economic regulation, stuff like that too. Hey, I'd be for that as well. That's still big government policy, just more on the local level. I think that's fine. But for the individual as a collective
You'd
will
rather have
always
the
be left.
local government take over the business spectrum and have the government manage it all? Astro, shut the fuck up.
Oh, yeah, hold on, Astro. Here's the fucking
Yeah, go
issue.
for it.
Here's the issue. Like, who fucking needs fucking leftists if we've got righties like you? Like, this is crazy. Like, you're not a capitalist, right? And you think that having alternatives to capitalism is a good idea. You've ignored the fact that capitalism has a track record of pulling more people out of poverty than any other economic system, and you're like, yeah, fuck that. We'll try something new. And the thing that you want to try that you think is new are lefty ideas, but as long as they're advocated by Republicans, you're all for them. What the fuck do you actually stand for, Astro?
Yeah, I would say this is that like, hey, the socialists would say, hey, the USSR became a global superpower under their economic system. I'm not going to sit here and say communism is a good thing, socialism is a good thing, just because there's small little benefits here and there for their economic system. Okay, and I would say this that like, I do have principles I stand on,
Economic
and
solution, they
it's
were
as
a
basic
mafia
as
group that took
economic
over by murder
nationalism,
and mayhem. They were
nationalism.
terrorists.
Economic nationalism is key. You don't actually
No, no, no,
give
no,
all.
no.
You don't.
It's hold
You
on.
don't give all your cultural values for the GD
Listen,
for
Jesus
higher
Christ.
GDP. You don't actually, decrease your sovereignty to give it to the mega corporation who doesn't care about your values, who doesn't care about your culture, who actually will sell you on a dime just to actually make a quick buck. That's what capitalism in the United States does already. That's one reason why I like Ron DeSantis going after Disney, because these mega corporations that go
Uh
against
huh.
conservative values need to
Uh
be crushed by the state. It's
Well,
just
hold
the
on.
truth.
Well, hold on. First of all, you don't possess conservative values. Let's be fucking clear on that. Secondly, this idea that fucking economic nationalism, if economic nationalism is your idea, then you're not fiscally conservative, period, point blank, because You're not going to be able to keep, if you want to put regulations, you want to put your hand on the scale of the market, you know what large corporations are going to do? They're going to give you the fucking finger and they're going to go elsewhere. This is why people that don't understand economics like yourself should shut the fuck up in these conversations. You should be doing more reading and more listening. The fact is, the only reason anybody ever comes up with these economic nationalism ideas is because in their fucking heart of hearts, they're just fucking racist. What you really think, this is what the fuck at the heart of MAGA is. The heart of MAGA is that we want the country to be white again, and we don't give a shit if it's economically successful. You could give me the thumbs down all you want. I'm telling you exactly the way that this stuff plays out. You guys are prioritizing this idea of what you think the country should look like over what would be effective in terms of governance. This is why you have these xenophobic views about immigration. Now, I would agree with Trump about illegal immigrants. You dumb motherfuckers don't want immigration of any fucking kind. I guarantee you that if we were to continue down this conversation, we're going to get to some Pat Buchanan, David Duke horse shit where you can laugh all you want. You probably like those guys. Huh? Why don't we pause right there? Astro, tell me your thoughts on David Duke and Pat Buchanan.
I disagree with David Duke. Pat Buchanan had some good ideas. I don't. I disagree with him on a lot of things too, but I think he's better than David Duke. Yeah.
I bet you couldn't tell the difference between their policy. Um, here's at the end of the day. Look, if you're not a fucking capitalist, then you're not a fucking conservative. Because if there's
Wrong.
anything,
Wrong.
oh, well, no, it's true. It's true. It's true. And by the way, if you're going to be a fucking anti-capitalist, why not at least fucking go hang your fucking your coat with the fucking lefties? Like this thing that you're doing. I honestly am starting to believe that the left's new tactic is to infiltrate the Republican Party, behave like leftists, and tell you that why capitalism is a bad fucking thing. This is fucking crazy. And I hope that the Republicans that are in this room that are free market capitalists can hear this horse shit and understand what this fucking guy is saying. This guy is not a conservative. Probably doesn't even follow politics. I guarantee he's never read anything when it comes to economics. He's probably never heard of Ludwig von Mises. He's probably never heard of Friedrich Hayek. He probably has never understood what the Chicago School was all about. I won't get into Adam Smith because I know that's above your reading comprehension level. And if I said School of Salamanca, you would think it's a character from Breaking Bad. So I won't get into any of those things with you because you're a fucking idiot.
Wasn't
Okay.
Adam Smith? Wasn't Adam
Can I
Smith?
respond?
Wasn't
I'm gonna tell you right here. As one of the more prominent voices in the conservative spaces on this app for 5 fucking years, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around somebody who literally has espoused. Where's Moose? Moose, apologize, cover your ears. This is meant no way any kind of offense, but literally has been a wet dream for Moose's side of the arguments on the political spectrum for 5 fucking years. Like I have had arguments with Moose over these very principles that you're now espousing, and you're saying that you're coming from a conservative lens. I wouldn't pick that up from you myself. I won't. And on Roger and I go toe to toe, and he'll yell at me at times, and it's fine. I respect him and I admire him more for it. But I mean, your economic principles are nowhere near what any conservative I've ever read, heard, or even had a discussion with would believe.
And
If
how
Astro is a mole or a Democrat shield in the guise of Republican or MAGA, you can have him.
Okay, well, what I was going to say is that, like, I'm not a fiscal conservative, but guess what? The Republican Party is not a fiscally conservative party either. I mean, it's a big
I've
tent.
been saying that for fucking years, you
Just
retard.
let
That's
me
not a
speak to
brag,
you.
you fucking retard.
Let me respond to you, Bojo. It is a big tent party. It is not the Libertarian Party. If you want pure libertarian economic theory, there is a party for you. And it's called the Libertarian Party. Go there, get
Oh,
2%
never
of the
heard of
vote,
him.
and just and vote for them all the time. Okay, but here's the thing: the Republican Party is big tent. There's different groups of people with different ideologies within it, and
Hey,
I'm
too
one of
big
them.
if they made
That's just
fucking
the
room for your dumbass.
Well, that's how we won
But
2024 right there.
stop there. You can say it's a Big Ten party. I'll acquiesce to that. Yeah, Trump has allowed literally everybody in. I would say though, you need to refrain from saying you're a conservative because that principle does not apply to you at all. Not even close. Not even on. You may have one issue that crosses over so far. Maybe I don't think you've actually stated an issue that conservatives would follow or believe in. But I don't know. Like we haven't finished yet. Roger's going to tear you up a bit, but if you're thick-skinned enough, I would say stay in it. But he's going to tear you up.
Well,
Astro,
But
do
go
you
for it,
know
Roger.
what's in your PTR? No more endless wars. Do you realize your economic policy is what guarantees endless wars, you low IQ nitwit?
I would say no. It's ultimately the for-profit motive of actually selling all these weapons to all these different countries. That does actually ensure endless
Oh, now
wars.
we
Okay,
found it. Economic
that's how it is.
nationalism because you hate the Jews. Go ahead.
Well, I don't hate. I don't. I do think we should reorient our alliance with Israel. I do, but I won't say I hate the Jews though.
There you go. There you go. We
So
found it.
Astro, I
Dude,
want
that didn't take long.
no, it did. So Astro, I have a
This hey,
question.
this is how I knew that he was down with David Duke and Pat Buchanan.
Come on, Roger. Leave
wait. I
Allen.
want to entertain this a bit. Like, what do you mean revalue our alliance with Israel?
They're
What do you
not
mean
good
by that?
partners. I mean, like they've had like the international ire of every single country known to man. They've actually gotten our bases in the Middle East bombed because they keep doing hostile aggression against Iran. I mean, they're not good
Wait a
allies.
minute. Wait a
And
minute.
and and
Oh,
and
hold
and
on.
and,
Oh,
and,
no,
here,
hold
and,
on.
here, and,
Hold
here, and,
on.
here,
No,
and
hold
here's the
on. Hold
here's
on. Hold on.
here's the
Nope.
thing.
Hold on. You're not going to win this.
Well,
No, you're going to shut the
I'll
fuck
let you
up. How
respond,
about that?
Moshe.
No,
Well,
you're going to shut
can
the
I
fuck
say
up.
something?
No,
Can I
you
say
can't.
something
No, you
quickly?
can't. No, you can't. Respectfully, no, you can't. Listen, you said it all right now. You said that their aggression against Iran, they're being attacked on multiple fronts from terrorist groups that are sponsored by the IRGC. And your response is that we should realign our foreign policy because that Israel is the problem. This is how we know how problematic you are. So you want economic nationalism, but you also would be more sympathetic to the IRGC, which is a country of religious fundamentalists that pray to a prophet that molests little girls. This is your politics. And I'll tell you, that has nothing to do with any Burkean fucking conservatism. What branch of conservatism do you come from? I want to hear the tree that you've come from. I would bet I can predict it, and I would bet that I wish we were in person. I would write down the fucking answer. I would fold it up in a piece of paper. I would seal it in an envelope. I would ask you the question, and then I would say to one of the pretty ladies, "Please open the envelope and unfold the piece of paper." I guarantee you, I know where your dumbass ideas come from, and I'll tell you right now, it's not conservatism. You're just a fucking bigot. But go ahead, you could speak now.
Well, Mojo, how about you guess first, and then I'll tell you. I'm just curious if you guess right.
That's not how predictions work. Go ahead.
Well, just guess. And I'll tell you. I'll tell you if it's correct or not.
I think that you're probably a groiper. I would say that Nick Fuentes is probably somebody that you're very fond of. Am I close?
Close, but no cigar. I would say that I'm closest to the Christian nationalist movement.
Got it. Got it. The Christian nationalist movement. I don't know if there's fucking awards for accuracy here to be able to spot the fucking foolishness from a mile away, but my track record here is fucking impeccable. I smelled you coming. I smelled you coming. For fuck's sake.
So, Astro,
Roger,
how would you then, as a member of said Christian nationalist movement, what is the crux? What is the agenda, if you will? Uh, you, your reasoning behind that. If I'm not mistaken, I think some stories have been surfacing where they're trying to actually allow this in corporations now. Allow religion with a bigger hint, with a bigger bias towards what your identity, your Christian nationalist movement. What does that movement mean to you?
I mean, I think it's the perfect balance on social issues and economic issues. Social issues are king, and then economic issues also reflect biblical teaching,
And
which
what is the
means, you know,
demographic as far as ethnicity breakdown? Roughly, I don't. Would you say
my, my
predominantly
You mean
white? Would
going
you say
into
a
a
lot of black?
debt spiral? Going
uh,
into a debt spiral reflects Christian values?
well, I would say this, you know, simping for Disney, for Amazon, for Walmart that exploit these people that promote LGBTQ ideology, that promote abortion, that promote all these things. I'm sorry, I'm not going to actually simp for these mega corporations
But
when
to,
they
but
hate
to,
me
to, to
for
Mojo's
my
point, though,
personal
G,
best.
about white
But
supremacy. Sorry, go ahead.
But I will go back. Let me go back what you said, Mister. You know, my personal opinion. You know, it's all about ideology. It's not about ethnicity. That's just my personal opinion. You know, like
But
I don't think I'm not like these race realists, these racists, these white nationalists or white supremacists like the Groypers are. That's where I would disagree with them on. They focus too
You
much on
wouldn't
race.
argue
They
that
focus too much on.
those people that you just said you're not a part of, they make up a significant like portion of said population of this Christian national movement, or at least in the guise and facade of calling themselves that. No.
I would say that they're a separate movement altogether. I think the Groypers are a lot of times they focus more on race than they do religion. Religion's more of an afterthought. It's more about like you know, saving the white race and stuff. And most of the Christian nationalists I've seen, they're not really ethnic centric. Maybe they're actually stricter on like you know, like immigration policy, but that doesn't make you like a racist or anything.
You
But
got a
even
lot
then,
of brothers at the got a
even
lot
then,
of brothers at the cookout at these meetings, or would you say that most of the meetings that you went to are white mostly? The demo.
well, I would, you know, I'm not. I would say the closest thing to me is a Christian. I don't even like the term Christian nationalism, but it's the closest thing to my political group. But there's people who agree with me who are ethnic minorities. There, I mean, I know one guy. He's Jewish. He's Hispanic, and he's married to a black woman. He agrees with me. He agrees with
Great.
me on most.
Again, my question though is, would you say predominantly it consists of white people identifying as white Caucasian?
Americans? Oh my God, Americans talking to Americans. Can we stop with the racial identity politics for
Yeah,
10 seconds?
I'm
Well,
not big
no, it
on
was
it
Mojo's
either.
point earlier about the white supremacy and the MAGA movement. So I was just trying to, explore that further.
Yeah,
let
I'm.
somebody who gets in here who's actually an American and do not deal with ethnicity.
Yeah,
Go.
and like,
Astro, hold on,
uh,
Astro. You
yeah, go.
said a lot. You said a lot, Astro. Okay, especially when you don't defend Israel and you say that you believe you're a Christian nationalist, which is very oxymoronic, kind of very crazy. Because Jesus was actually a Jew. I don't know if you know that or not. So for you to actually make that statement is crazy. And I also like to find out from you who carries your economic portfolio, or do you have an economic portfolio? I just want to know.
Well, I mean, I think a good historical Christian who did was G.K. Chesterton. You know, he believed in interventionist economic theory, and he believed in, you know, helping the working class, the average man too,
You
and not
believed
letting the
in borrowing and
market
spending
actually
in
not
fiat
and not
currency? G.K.
Oh,
Chesterton?
Yeah,
Wow. Where in
no,
G.K.
yes.
not
Chesterton did you
hold
read
on, guys.
that?
Hold on, guys. What I just want to translate this to people that are listening. When he says economic interventionist, what he meant to say was a fascist. But go ahead.
No, I wouldn't say that. G.K. Chesterton wasn't a fascist, and but I
You
would
know, his
say though.
principles will like literally Mussolini. Like,
exactly. Thank you, Brad. I was getting ready to say
like,
that, Brad.
like
And
Wait, hold
and
on.
also
Hold
wait,
on. No, no, hold on. Hold on. I want to. I'm going to give you a chance to respond. Believe me. And I needed to take a few deep breaths while I was on mute, calm myself down. Look, the foolishness from the left is enough for me to deal with. But when the foolishness from the right starts bubbling up like this, when your economic policies are just as dangerous, if not worse, than the left, we've got a real fucking problem here. And the problem is this: the problem is that A, you don't know economics, you don't study it, you have no fucking idea what you're talking about. And what you're doing is you're leading with this idea of what you think the country should be. You think your version of Christianity, your version of what America should be, is what should be. So what you're saying is that you're an authoritarian, right? You're an authoritarian anti-capitalist, but you think that the Republican Party is the vehicle for you. Now, this is the thing that should scare Republicans. If this guy is right and there's more like him, and it's just they're just like cockroaches. If you see one, there's probably a lot more. If an authoritarian that's a non-capitalist it finds safe harbor in the Republican Party, you guys have a lot of soul searching to do.
And I would disagree with that, like that characterization. I mean,
Wait,
Trump
wait, wait, wait.
actually.
How would you wait?
Okay, let me just say this one thing. You can
But
go, Brad.
Astro, yeah, go ahead. You know what? I'll
What
acquiesce.
I
Go
would
ahead,
say is that
Landon.
Trump is proof that a modern economists are wrong. They're cringe. These free market Wall Street Journal people, they don't know what they're talking about. Tariffs, intervention in the economy is good and can bring about growth. And if I'm authoritarian for actually wanting intervention in the economy, then you have to say Trump is too. Go for it.
But
Yes.
you just
Well, no, hold on. Yes, Trump is an authoritarian. And you know who was an authoritarian before him? Biden. And you know who was an authoritarian before him? Trump. And you know who was an authoritarian before him? I could keep going. You have to go back to fucking Calvin Coolidge to find a US president that wasn't an authoritarian. But Astro, I get that you see in Trump, you see this hope that this guy that's threatened by foreigners, this is your whole nationalistic thing, threatened by people that don't think just like you. And so then you try to wrap it up in some fucking wacky idea that you understand economics. And what's crazy to me is, and I'm glad you're doing this. I'm glad everybody can see this, because when I say it, they say, "Oh, well, you just don't like Trump." Here's a guy that likes Trump, right? He likes Trump, and he openly acknowledges that he's not a capitalist, and he openly acknowledges that he wants more control over the economy, which basically makes him an economic fascist. And so, what I hope you guys are hearing here is that what Astro sees is an ally in Trump that is anti-capitalist and has fascistic fucking viewpoints when it comes to taking over the economy.
I'm still like trying to wrap my head around where his religious ideology would warrant intervention in the economic sectors, like such as shutting down major employers such as Amazon, Walmart. Who else did he say? He said a litany of them, but like,
Yes.
and then saying that somehow this would promote economic prosperity, and then at the same time to reevaluate trade agreements on a global scale, and to somehow think we're going to get on top when you're really taking one of our top tier, like there's tiers to like which nations we trade with that have like they help promote economic interests of the United States, and you're taking one of them that actually gives us safety, security, along with other things, and you're saying that that is your first target. I don't know where the rest of your economic plan comes into play, but you're not sounding like a liberal. You sure as hell not a conservative. You sound exactly like the progressives, like in AOC, like a Kamala. Roger's right, and I'm sorry, but you sound more like that. You're just adding Christianity and thinking that somehow you get cover under the conservative
Astro,
movement.
he's calling you a hypocrite and a fake patriot. Do you understand that
Well,
your
yeah,
your desire to borrow and
I'm
spend
a
and do
JV Vance Republic.
economic intervention is anti-American and low IQ? It's stupid, Astro. Wake up.
Wait, hold on. Let's make it. Well,
I'm a
hold on.
JD
Oh, hold
Vance
on. Hold on.
Republican,
Hold on. Hold on.
and
Hold on. Hold
I'm a
on.
Josh
Hold on.
Hawley
Hold on. Hold on.
Republican. I'm
Hold
sorry,
on.
guys.
Hold on. Hold on.
Those
No,
people are
hold on. Hold
Republicans.
on. Hold on. Hold on.
They're not
Hold on.
free market capital.
Hold on. I know you're not a free market capitalist, and neither is Trump. And I'm
No,
glad you're
no,
pointing
I
this
know,
out.
but also
I'm
Josh
glad you're pointing
Hawley,
this out.
JD Vance, all
Shut
these
the
people.
fuck up. I'm going to ask you a question, retard. Here's the question for you. In your economic nationalism, where are you going to get rubber from?
Trade, regulated trade.
Wait, hold on. So you acknowledge that you might need rubber, right?
Well, I'm not against trading. You just got to do fair trade, not free trade.
Oh, fair trade. And fair trade is you putting your hand on the scale to create a tax that the consumers have to pay for. That's what you call fair trade?
No, you let the companies eat it up because they have the money to spend.
That's not what happens, though.
If you use the
No,
government to
no,
actually not increase
no,
prices, then that is
no,
what
no, hold
happens.
on. That never happens. Are you saying that
It's,
what you
it's
want? Wait,
happening
hold on.
now under Trump.
Hold on.
Just
No,
Trump
no.
actually putting a little bit of pressure on these companies.
Oh,
Guess what?
oh,
Prices have
wait,
not gone up
wait, wait,
significantly,
wait, wait, wait,
and
wait.
they're eating the
Hold on,
cost
hold
of the
on, hold
tariff.
on, hold on, hold on. So now you're telling me that you're for price controls?
I mean, you can do it different ways. Like it just depends.
Are
It
you?
just
Do you
depends.
support price controls? Yes or no?
I'm not. I don't think there's anything wrong with the state pressuring companies to actually have affordable prices.
Do you support price controls? Yes or no?
I think that answers my question.
I think you're a fucking retard. I'm done with it. I'm gonna have a fucking aneurysm.
Astro,
No, no,
uh,
shut the fuck up, Lordness. I'm gonna bring this guy back up in a second. I literally need to go walk the fucking dog. You guys have this fucking room. I'm gonna come back. We'll shit down his neck a little bit more. But I swear to Christ, I'm gonna have to take a goddamn blood pressure pill. This is fucking crazy. This is a fucking Republican. This is a Trump support. I hope you're listening, Brad. Hello. Fucking Edward, hello. You people that are voting for Republicans, hello. What have I been telling you guys? What have I been telling you? That the Republicans are a bunch of anti capitalists just like the fucking leftists. And you just fucking heard this guy advocating for this shit. I hope you guys heard this. I hope you heard it loud and clear. You guys think I make this shit up. You guys think I pull this shit out of my ass. Listen, I don't know why that fucking God put me on this earth to be the fucking voice of reason. Look, I'm not the fucking hero you deserve, but I'm the one you fucking got. You guys need to start listening to me. When I tell you that fucking Trump is an anti-capitalist, you need to fucking acknowledge it. Moving forward, hopefully you will understand that when I tell you these things, I'm here to help you.
Roger, I never discounted your critiques of Trump. I've never considered Trump a conservative. I've stated that many times, and we've had many fucking rooms together bashing Trump's economic interventionist policies, as well as his failures to actually live up to the promises that this guy down below has done. So please walk the dog, take your blood pressure, have a Diet Coke. Like we hear it. There's just I. What do you want me to do as a conservative? I am the outs of the party. They have it. It's the same thing you are with the Libertarian Party. We're fringe. We're no longer relevant. They don't want to listen to us, and they want to just head. They want to slide down that mountain head first without a chute, skis, or anything to help them, or a rope. They just want to go down that way, and they just want the culture war. They don't want anything else. They just want to have a religious versus anti-religious culture war.
This country has become the Soviet Union of America, not the United States of America anymore. We can't just keep borrowing and spending. Economic intervention doesn't work. It's anti American, it's low IQ, it's stupid. It's just kicking the can down the road. Wake the fuck up.
Economic intervention gave us 3% growth
no, look.
just
What we
now.
need
I
to
mean,
do is get rid of a majority of laws that are regulating our corporations in terms of technology, weaponry, all that, and improve our type of technology and weaponry over time. We would become more of a threat in comparison to other nations. Then, I mean, hey, we could probably get a lot more from other nations.
I think we should actually decrease regulation that actually incentivizes mega corporations from growing. I think that's one thing the libertarians do correct. Like I think Ron also believes that. So yeah, I'm not against that, but we still need some regulation of the economy.
No, no, we shouldn't have any form of regulation on economy. No.
Esther, in
But
the Constitution, what agency is specifically called out? What is the one agency that the Constitution actually delivers to the American people? Do you know what it is, Esther?
I do not lie me, American.
It's the Census Bureau. That's the only agency in our Constitution. Do we need the CIA? Do we need the FBI? Do we need the NSA? Do we need this and that and 350 other agencies? Do they have to keep getting funding, Astra?
Yeah, I think a lot of these agencies you can absolutely, do away with, or you could subvert them and use them for your own political interests. Either way is fine by me. So, I'm not against that.
Astro, I've got a question for you. And please don't say anything that irritates me. What is the 30-year period in U.S. history that had the most economic growth? Can you tell me?
I'm guessing, if I had to guess, I don't know, but maybe under Reagan, I think that's what you're going to say.
No, no, fuck
No,
Reagan.
even earlier than that. So like during the 20s, the Roaring 20s.
No, no. There was at the end of the 20s we had a depression, for fuck's sake. Um,
Oh, well, I know that's what I was thinking. Oh, maybe that's
it-
when they had the mass crash. But go for it.
no, yeah, I'll tell you.
1960 more than
Zayn,
1990.
why are you speaking while I'm speaking? I'm moving you down. I'll move you back up. Learn some fucking manners. So the 30-year period of the most economic growth in this country was from 1870 to 1900. And do you know what led to that prosperous time? Any idea?
Explain away.
Deregulation. I rest my case.
And then you had the Gilded Age, and you had massive backlash against that from the workers,
You had
and also the rise of socialism in the United States as well.
hold
So
on.
I mean,
Hold, yeah, yes. No, you're right. You're right. Let me talk about this. So we had a 30-year period where economic expansion was the shit. And then this country got poisoned by a bunch of fucking leftist shit fucking tards, and they come in and they unwind all this stuff, and they start getting romantic, romanced by these fucking leftists in Europe, and they decided to start moving in the direction that you want to move, where you want to control the economy. And then look at this: you go from the most economic growth from 1870 to 1900, and by 1929, there's a goddamn collapse. And the worst economic time comes for the between then and then the end of the World War II. And then by the end of World War II, then we were prosperous again. So I want to just explain something to you. We have a track record in this country. We could see we have a long history, 249 years. We could look at the history and we could see the economic prosperity under controlling the economy, and we could look at the economic prosperity when you let the economy go. The most production that we've ever done was in the least regulated time. And what you're calling for is not an easing of restrictions. See, I want to eliminate almost all regulations. You don't even want to ease them. You want to go the other direction. You want to take your fucking fascist fist, put it on the goddamn scale, and you want to put it down. This is Look, all you have to do is read fucking history. Your ideas have been tried and they fucking failed. They've been tried multiple times and they've failed multiple times. This is the funny thing, though. For those of you listening, he's not a Democrat. These wacky ideas, he believes he could achieve these goals through Donald Trump. This is a guy that does not believe in free market capitalism, and he wants to push these ideas through the Republican Party under Donald Trump. You guys need to get your shit together. Clean your fucking backyard, guys.
yeah, and what I would say to that is that if FDR, if Teddy Roosevelt, and all these other people who were more economically liberal didn't do what they did, the socialists would have gotten power. They would have revolted against the United States in the early 1930s, and we wouldn't have our way of life at all. So sometimes appeasing the populace, even at the expense of economic development, is a good thing, especially if it means helping average individual people's lives. Okay, the GDP is not supreme. Wall Street is not supreme. Okay. And ultimately, what actually is supreme is the average American. That is the way to go. Now, I think most people will agree with that, but we just have different ways of actually achieving that. I think Mojo would say it's deregulation. I would say it is more economic interventionism. That means stimulus checks. Give me my $1,000 rebate.
There you go. There you go.
With these
This
tariffs. That's what
guy.
I'm saying. I
Now
mean,
I'm
and that's how you.
now I'm moving this retard back down. You guys can bring him back up if you want to fucking have a save. Look, this guy's not a fucking Republican. He's not a conservative. He's not a capitalist. He's none of those things. That is a fucking leftist. Okay, that is a leftist. And what he's doing is he's trying to get his ideas passed because he doesn't think that the Democrat Party, because they're out of power, can get any of these ideas done. You guys have let this guy into your fucking camp. I can't believe. Why do I have to be the one to police this shit? Can I please have a real fucking conservative stand up and say, Donald Trump's a fucking idiot. That fucking guy that supports Donald Trump's policies is a fucking idiot. Tariffs are a fucking tax on consumers. And stand up. Where the fuck are the capitalists in this fucking room? If there is a single capitalist outside of me in this room, please fucking speak now.
I
Well,
agree to a
the
certain
owners of
extent.
this stupid app aren't capitalists. Where's the ads in this fucking room? Where's the rev share? You know, what's they got their payout already? I guess a couple hundred million, and they're just going to sit there and do nothing with it. But you know, it's opportunities like this to identify the problem, which is former speakers who believe in borrowing and spending infinitely to grow the economy, to get us out of debt. The problem is Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, the NDAA, 1 trillion for defense, and 1 trillion on the interest payments. It is unsustainable. It's a death spiral. In my opinion, everything else is political. Maybe even the debt is political because it's all fucking fiat. So, you know, like Mojo said, either we break it or we fix it. Or I think the third option would be we do nothing and we just continue to spend at, you know, a $2 trillion a year deficit and we fuck the rest of the world who has invested in our fucking Ponzi scheme.
But what we do need is an improvement on innovation and technology. Hopefully, with the
Oh,
corporations and the population
but
to
all that
support these
improvement comes from the
corporations.
private sector. You realize that? Like, there's no federal fucking government. There's nowhere in the federal fucking government that creates, a fucking new rocket. Elon Musk for SpaceX created more advances than NASA did since the fucking Challenger exploded. I'm still confused. Like, I mean, Elon Musk hasn't been around. SpaceX hasn't been around as long. So I'm kind of confused. The innovations that you speak of and you want, they're not created by the federal government. They buy them. They'll fucking pay for contracts to develop them. But those planes that you talk about, they're built by private companies. They innovated, and then the government spends all of your tax money literally on those planes.
I agree, but I mean, being more of a mass production rate type of mentality for the main government itself.
Wait, hold on. Can we get back to the fact that the guy fucking said that what we need to do is send out more stimulus checks? Like, he said we should send out more stimulus checks. And then I'm sure you guys have voted for Trump are just like, oh, that's nonsense. That sounds like something Democrats would do. Well, I don't know if you guys remember that motherfucking Trump. He was spending like a drunk fucking liberal. That guy was giving out stimulus checks. This guy just wants more of them. This is what I honestly think. I think that the stimulus check that that dude got is probably the fucking biggest check he's ever been handed in his fucking life. And he's like, fuck, Donald Trump fucking cut me a nice little check. Hopefully he'll cut me some more. And I just gotta say, you fucking Republicans, man, you better do better. If in 2028 you don't fucking get a capitalist in here, we're all fucked.
Well, Roger, I mean, to a certain extent, with my ideology, in some way, it does have capitalism in
You
it.
don't
It's
have
not
you don't have an
perfect.
ideology. You have a fucking retardation. You're fucking your idea is that you don't need a government. Listen, I don't want regulation of the market, but I do fucking recognize that government does have a role, which is why we should talk about what the rights of man is, and that's why we should talk about what the role of government is. We should have a strong military, which should be able to kick everybody's ass. Doesn't mean we need to go picking fights like we do, but we should absolutely have a strong military. We need a police force. Why do we need that? Because some of you fucking degenerates are committing crimes, and your little candy asses need to go into a jail cell. And in order to get you in the jail cell after you've been apprehended, we need to put you in a court of law, which means that we need courts. So we need courts, we need police, and we need the military. Everything else should be negotiable. You guys just heard from a Trump supporter that said he wants to expand the government and he wants to put the hand on the scale of the economy because he doesn't believe that the leftists have done enough to put their hand on the scale. He doesn't think that they've given enough of your tax dollars away. He doesn't believe that the fiat currency where they continue to print and then just send checks. He wants additional checks. This guy probably supports UBI. He doesn't have a capitalist bone in his body. And you fucking guys all have one thing in common. You motherfuckers voted for Trump. Shame on all of you.
It's either him or Camilla.
I mean, you do realize that Kamala and Waltz would have redirected the money and expanded the debt dramatically compared to what Trump and his administration are doing. And the fact is, the borrowing and the spending is unsustainable. I don't know if you watched Chairman Powell's remarks yet today, but he kept rates fixed And Trump wants them to lower rates. I mean, we could have negative rates if we wanted in this country, but a banking cartel, a monopoly organization, controls the fucking interest rates in this country instead of we, the voters, we, the taxpayers, or our elected representatives. You have no control over the interest rate because a group of a cartel controls it, and it's law. I mean, it's a problem.
I guess I'll take the blame, Roger. You're right. It's my fault. I allowed. I didn't take a stronger stance against preserving the conservatives or sheltering them. You know what? It is my fault. It is my generation's fault. It is men like me who didn't slap back ideas like this. You can only do so much. I wouldn't put him at the table with us just because he voted for Trump. I wouldn't put a lot of guys at the table with me that voted for Trump. There's a whole lot of people. Some people just voted for him because it was popular. I don't think they could articulate one thing he actually one piece of legislation, one executive order that he signed that he could articulate it. So I have them. Progressives have them on their side. The libs have to own that one as well. But on the conservative side, yeah, we have like idiots like a Nick Fuentes that hang out in the ether. You have Christian nationalists that sit there and say the nation needs to be governed by Christians. And I am, because there is a man on stage that I actually respect and admire and who I would literally have no problem giving my life defending his family and himself. I will not disparage any religion on here, but I would never want religion to be the governing body of this land, nor would I want any of the economic policies that Trump and
By
the
the way,
countries of
nor
now
did the
drifted to.
founders want that. Nor did the founders want that.
I
Exactly,
know they did.
exactly. Like, and so that's
If it's
actually
not
that's
religion,
unfortunate.
well, then it's racial identity politics, and that's what we have and continue to have. There's DEI everywhere still.
So let me read you guys something. This is back when Republicans had brains. uh, you guys can tell me who this quote came from. I'll read you a few quotes. The benefits of free trade are clear, and the arguments against it are always made by those seeking special privilege. That's quote number one. Number two, the appropriate answer to most problems in trade is not to add restrictions, but to eliminate them. Here's a third quote. The case for free trade is as close to a scientific consensus in economics as you can get. Anyone want to guess where those three quotes came from? Anyone?
John Smith.
Nope. Somebody way more bitching than him.
Milton
Milton
Friedman.
Friedman.
There you go, Milton
Did I say
Friedman.
Friedman? I got
Yeah,
that.
yeah, Milton Friedman. And you know why he said that? Because he understood that free trade is the fucking answer, deregulation. So any of you, for whatever reason you're doing it, is simping for tariffs, you are going against the most fucking basic principles of free market capitalism. You are fucking simping for the wrong side. So just because your fucking guy is in office and said tariffs are a good idea, and because you're cranky with China because they were kicking your ass because we weren't as innovative as we should have been, you guys can't sell out your fucking principles in a generation just because Trump became president. Milton Friedman should be your guiding fucking light, not Donald Trump. And those of you that sit here and advocate for tariffs, you're not fiscal conservatives. You're not even students of economics.
Look at the numbers on the tariffs. They've only taken in 150 billion. That's 10 days of federal spending. That's not a reduction in spending. That doesn't pay down the debt. That does nothing. It moves the needle nowhere. So it has been the lamest and longest conversation about tariffs. It's meaningless communication.
But there's a lot of exceptions to it also on the tariffs. I was trying to
Are
figure
you
out.
pro tariff, Abby?
No, no, I am ordering a new freaking car from Germany. It's been a pain in the ass trying to figure out what it's going to cost me. So right now, I'm definitely not in favor of them. Um, but what?
Right
But they're
now, but overall, you were before you were impacted.
no. I've never. That's not something. No, I wouldn't say I was in favor of them. Um, what he's using with strategy right now. I definitely thought it was interesting how things played out with Canada, though. I do want to say that. Um, but I just want to say I think there's exceptions in these tariffs with the different countries, and definitely with Europe. And I'm trying to I'm trying to read it as it's happening in real time. And maybe you guys have more insight into it as to what the carve outs are on what will not be governed by it.
Well,
Well,
You
we're going
know,
to
We're a
here's
trillion
With Europe in particular. I'm curious if you know the carve outs.
so here's the important thing to consider with free trade, right? That moron, he's back on the stage, by the way. He likes to use this word that he borrowed from the left called fair trade. Fair trade just simply means that you get to control what happens with the trade. So you don't like it to be free, which, by the way, free trade is the biggest weapon against war. Everybody knows that, except for Astro. But here's something to think about. Within free trade, if you find that there's a country that you don't like the way that that they're let's say you don't like their stance on human rights or whatever the fucking excuse you're going to come up with of why you don't like them, right? Let's say they're a bunch of commie bastards. Let's say they're building a war machine against you. Let's say they sponsor terrorism, right? There are ways within free trade that you can just say, okay, I'm not going to get my rice from them. I'm not going to get my rubber from them. I'm not going to get my steel from them. You just have to go seek it out elsewhere. If you want free trade, doesn't mean nobody says we have to trade with China, but the idea that you're going to put a tariff on it is stupid. If there's something that China exclusively has, whether it's a fucking mineral or finished good, really, what China does for the world, and you guys should recognize this, what they do well is they manufacture, right? They are a manufacturing engine for the entire fucking globe. Now, if you don't want to do trade with them, or if you think that there's a trade imbalance and you want to fix this, then what you have to do is you have to find a different country that you're going to have free trade with that gets you what you want. You don't sit there and put these fucking stupid tariffs that raises the prices on consumers, because the price that it raises on consumers works in two ways. It's not just simply on the products that were imported because you've slapped some tariff on it. It's also the companies within your own country that are that are now going to have to compete, right? They can then raise their prices because they know that the foreign goods are more expensive now because of the tariffs. So even the American stuff is going up. You know what's not happening? American goods are not going down in price.
It,
They're
it,
going up in they're
Roger,
going up in
Roger,
price.
don't the American companies, though there is a positive, the American companies are getting the benefit of the purchasing. I mean, you can't negate that that wouldn't be a fallout from it, that they will choose to purchase domestically.
Not
And will this,
necessarily.
I mean, that's the point he's trying is it incentivizes keeping the
So you are
business.
supportive of tariffs.
No, I'm just saying you just raised all the negatives and you raised the negative on the domestic companies, and I'm saying there's it's not 100% negative. There is a positive fallout from it, and you can't negate that. And I also go back to what we did with Canada because they just flat out refuse to recognize that they do have a border with us. That just like Mexico, we had a fentanyl issue coming from the northern border as well. We had other issues, border related issues with them. Watch list people were coming in. They weren't taking it seriously. And he did put pressure on them. And I wonder if you see it any differently with a bordering nation than with a nation on the other side of the Pacific.
Not at all. I'm a free trade zealot, and the reason for that is that if you think about this realistically, just hear me out here. if if you're going to have a tariff to protect your industry, think about what that means. That means this is what Astro wants. He wants the government to step in to protect industry. The only industries that need protection are those that are not efficient, that where there's competition that is beating them. So you want to protect the company that has failed to innovate to a degree that you would choose them at a higher price, or or it's going to be somebody else has manufactured something better. It's either better or cheaper, right? And so the only thing tariffs protect, the only industry that tariffs protect, are those that are inefficient. If you have an efficient industry here, they're not they don't need any protection. And this economic protectionism is just fucking crazy. It's unnecessary. What we should do is we should take the burden off of these companies. We should lower their taxes. We should deregulate them so they can spend more money becoming more efficient, innovating more, and releasing more products, and being able to get the price down because of economy of scale. Like increasing their manufacturing capabilities. The way that you could do that is by deregulating the market and to tax them less. But instead of that, what Astro wants to do is he wants to put more regulations on them. This is fucking
Well,
crazy.
that's not true. I
You're
already said.
worse than a leftist, you fucking retard.
You're
Respectfully.
you're putting words in my mouth for half the things I didn't even argue for. I already said John Stossel is right. Over regulation sometimes produces these mega corporations. I mean, you have to deregulate in some instances, and you have to regulate in more instances. Okay, I'm not against deregulation entirely. Okay, so stop saying that. That's not my position. Another thing is too, like, are you okay with foreign companies having a dominant like a market share in America? Like,
Yeah,
if they were more
yes.
efficient.
Yes, I am. And I'll
Okay,
tell you why. Yeah, no, hold
what if
on,
they?
hold on. No,
Yeah,
you
go
asked
for
me
it.
a question. I'm going to answer it. Yes, I am. Because what I want is I want Americans to step up to the fucking challenge. I want us to make the best fucking products on planet fucking Earth so nobody else would want to buy something unless they literally couldn't afford it. I want us to fucking step this shit up. I want the regulation to go away. I want us to be the leader in innovation. What you're saying is anti-innovation. What you're supporting here
Okay,
would take us to the fucking stone ages. I just don't get it.
calm
It
down,
drives no, you shut your fucking mouth, you fucking
calm
leftist
down.
No,
larping as a fucking right winger.
Raj,
Breathe
This is
in, out.
fucking ridiculous. Go,
Raj, hold on.
fuck yourself, you little
Raj,
fucking
Raj,
whore.
Raj, he was right about that.
But
Raj,
one, but here's the
Jesus
thing:
Christ.
like if these corporations become dominant in the United States, or owned by China, owned by some other foreign nation, whether it be Russia or North Korea, whoever, whatever hypothetical adversary. Guess what? They could actually use their political influence in the United States and actually put influence politicians to overregulate on American businesses instead. They could use
Astro,
like
where'd you study
your
political
principles
science?
against you and
Astro,
actually and subvert the
Astro,
American
where'd you
people in the
study
process.
political science?
I didn't get a political science degree because it's a fluff degree. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You're
no,
not
yeah,
going
okay,
you're
okay.
not going to get
Where,
anywhere unless
hold
if you
on,
get
Okay,
a
no, hold
Astro,
bachelor's
on,
the
in
hold
degree
on,
political
is
hold
science.
not
on,
fluff.
hold on, hold on. I'm
Fuck
not
you, it's
creden.
not fluff.
Hold on. I'm not a credentialist. I'm just asking where you got that degree. You acknowledge you didn't have one. I'm an autodidact. I didn't go to fucking school either. But I did read quite a bit. It's kind of obvious that that's something you should try. Where did you study economics?
The internet.
you studied you studied economics on the internet, and who's the economist that you go to? Who's your go-to for economic theory?
Good question. There's a lot of different thinkers out there. I mean,
name
like
one name
well,
one
I,
without
I,
chat
I
gpt.
actually did earlier. I said G.K. Chesterton. He's pretty influential, I'd say, and he was good. He was good back in the early 20th century.
Did he win a Nobel Prize?
Um, that's I mean, if he did or didn't, I mean, it don't matter. The Nobel Peace Prize is completely
I
rigged
didn't
and
say the
corrupt.
Peace Prize. I said a Nobel Prize in economics.
I mean, no. Does that mean anything? I mean, you said you're not for the credential class. I mean,
I'm trying to figure out, because what you're saying, first of all, is not rooted in any economic school. The communists would disagree
well,
with you. Shut the fuck up. The communists would disagree with you. The capitalists would disagree with you. The only people that agree with you, the only people that agree with you, is Nick Fuentes and the Gropers. That's
no,
it.
no. I stand with President Trump's, interventionist economic theory. I stand with him on that. I think he's done a great job with it. And he's proved that the free market capitalists are wrong on and the modern economists are wrong. And guess what? America's prospering so far in his second term. I think he's actually It's been a massive success story.
You think Trump is a brilliant economist?
He's a great politician. That's why I would say
But you
he
just
has
said you just said you agreed with
when it comes to his economic plan has been solid,
right, that part.
but it's not just him who's in charge. But he has a good team with him, like Scott Bassick. He's fantastic.
What
So you
state
think
do you live
tariffs
in?
have actually been good? You think
What's
tariffs have actually made the voters happier?
Yes. So far, I mean, so